Welcome back to the Masters of Recon podcast, your top automotive refinishing podcast with your hosts, Corey Kleinfeld
and Ryan Brewer. Enjoy the show, guys.
Welcome back to the Masters of Recon podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Pete Kurkcuyan. He actually started doing mobile paint repair, touch-ups, and buffing, that kind of service in 1996 and started his RestorFX Center in March of 2020, which we all remember was the day that the month that the world changed, right, Pete?
Exactly.
So back in March of 2021, he's been doing mobile service for, you said what, coming up on 28 years. So we're going to talk about everything there is to do with the mobile service and then now adding RestorFX in a shop environment. So welcome to the show, Pete.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate you inviting me.
And this guy can roll with punches because we just spent the last 10 minutes trying to go over some technical difficulties to get where we are. So today on the podcast is just me. Ryan couldn't make it today. So no problem. We'll get it done. So Pete, how did you find, I will start back way in the beginning. How did you find this automotive reconditioning niche that you've spent your life in?
Well, it's funny. I initially, in Entrepreneur magazine, I came across an ad for Ding King. So
we've all heard of them.
Yes. So how that started was my brother had been in the auto body paint business for, at that time, probably going on 20 something years. So I asked him, I said, have you ever heard of paintless dent removal? And he's like, what's that? And I said, well, apparently they can get dents out without painting, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, never heard of it. You can't do that.
It's not possible.
Said,
yeah.
Not possible. So this was going back, this was probably 95. And so I reached out to Ding King and I said, just inquired about it. And at that time, I think it was $7,500 for 2 weeks training. And I said to the lady on the phone, I said, so you mean to tell me after 2 weeks that I could be able to get a dent out, you won't be able to notice it without painting? And she's like, well, that'll depend on you and how you do. And this, if she would have sold me on the phone, I probably would have been doing dent repair.
If she was like, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
you'd have been.
But she didn't at the time. She couldn't do that. So I was like, okay.
To be fair, that's still the case.
Exactly. I mean, she was being honest, but I think I would have pursued it a little bit further because the cost of the training, and this I had no idea about it. So the cost of the training and everything, I thought, well, the barrier of entry isn't too bad. So I would look into it. But since she couldn't do that, and after getting some negative feedback from my brother, I was like, okay. So I put that aside. And my wife ended up taking on a new job. And the lady that she was working with, her husband happened to be doing mobile paint touch-up. So my wife and this lady hit it off. They became friends, and then I became friends with her husband. And so I inquired with him. I'm like, what do you do and this and that? So he's like, well, I go to dealerships, we do touch-up, this and that. He's like, why don't you come with me one day and see if you like it? I was like, sounds great. Nice. So I ended up spending a day with him one day. I was like, I can do this because I've been hanging out with my brother, so I had a knowledge of
a little bit,
body paint, polishing, that type of stuff. So there was some knowledge there, and I wasn't happy with the job I was at. So I was like, okay, talk to my wife, and I said, what's your thoughts if I start a business doing touch-up? She's like, sure. She said, I think you'd be great at it. And so at this point, she's awesome. 6 months pregnant.
Oh, she's 6 months pregnant. First kid too, right?
Yeah, first kid. So I decided, thankfully, the job I was at before, I was able to still work part-time. So I started my touch-up business part-time. It was 2 days a week doing my touch-up business, 4 days a week at my other job.
Right. Oh, nice.
Within a year, I flipped it, and we were at 4 at touch-up, 2 at my other job. So the rest is, I guess you could say, is history.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. And then fast forward, obviously you'd fast forward 24 years, you had to RestorFX. Was there any time in between there that you ever added anything else outside of what, the paint the paint space, and you did touch up, you buffing and things like that. But was there ever a time where you added an additional thing
I
before
didn't. Not nothing that was
of
of
full another
substance.
business? Yeah, I mean little
Right.
stuff here
Like
and there. Yeah,
I would do pinstripe. I would do some stuff like that.
that's kind of in the same ballpark though.
Right. So
Yeah.
I would, but nothing to the degree of RestorFX.
Hmm.
So March, the MTE of 2020, when I went to MTE, and I came across
That
RestorFX.
was in January, probably January of 2020.
January,
Yeah, yeah,
January 2020, and I saw RestorFX, and I was like really intrigued because I wanted, after being that time 25 years of being mobile. I'm in Windsor, Ontario, which is right across the border from Detroit. So after 25 years of being in the cold, being in the heat, the wind, the rain, just it's taken its toll on my body. I've got, my knees are bad,
yeah.
my back's got issues, and then just lately my hips and stuff have been sore too. So, there's just that constant being out in the cold and the heat and everything. I was like, okay, I've been looking for an exit strategy for some time. So RestorFX, once I saw the whole process, I ended up talking to Adam Geyer
Yeah.
at RestorFX, and I probably spent an hour with him, and he answered every one of my questions. And when he answered the stuff he didn't have answers to, he's like, let me find out and I'll get you an answer, which I really liked. That he wasn't just spewing
Sure.
everything out of his mouth. So when we were done, I spent about an hour with him, and he's like, it sounds like you're really interested. What we're going to do is tomorrow we're going to have a live demo
Right.
for a select few of people. And now at MTE, they're doing it at the show. They were doing this off site because they weren't allowed to do it at the time. So Dave Butte, he's a dent guy from Windsor area, and so him and I went to the demo the next day, and we kind of saw the whole process. I had already envisioned that what it could be, and once we saw it with our own eyes, we just both kind of looked at each other and said, "Okay, where do we sign up?"
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting that you say that too, with the a lot of dent guys listen to the podcast, and we're going to all be in a similar situation as you, 10, 15, 20 years of essentially a mobile service situation, servicing your probably a large majority of dealerships, but maybe some personal customers as well. And then trying to figure out, okay, what have I created here that I can sell? And the answer, unfortunately, is not that much if you're just by yourself rolling around fixing cars. And so that's interesting that you saw the same. That's very similar reason for myself too. Saw inside RestorFX, like, okay, this is something that's in a reconditioning space that I could build.
Exactly.
And also, the shop is required for it, but then also a justification for building a business around being in a shop versus basically taking yourself off the road, off of the mobile service, and telling all your customers, sorry, I don't do mobile anymore. Everything I do is in the shop now. Really, really difficult. It's like starting a whole new business. Really difficult transition to make without losing a lot of clients that you have, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So, how did that start? So I know we've talked a couple of times. I mean, you basically signed on with RestorFX in March of 2020, and then March, I think it was like 12th, I think, was when California shut down. I think we were one of the first states to shut down. I don't know if Canada was first, but right around there, like a couple weeks after you did that, the world kind of changed. So let's talk about. I'm just curious your perspective on that. You're like, oh shit, did I make a mistake, or how'd you handle it?
Well, exactly. So what happened is getting back to mobile tech. So
Yeah.
I spoke with Adam, and I said, Dave and I both spoke with Adam and said, we're really interested in RestorFX, but we'd like to see the day-to-day on how a shop works, how the whole process works. Is there somebody we could go see? And he recommended Ryan Kay.
Yeah.
Ryan's about 3 hours north of us. And so he coordinated with Ryan, and 2 weeks after we got back from MTE, he set it up. So Dave and I drove up for the day, we actually spent the night. We started there first thing in the morning, and we were able to kind of see the whole process of picking up cars, processing cars, just the whole day-to-day, how his shop was set up. So that allowed us to kind of, okay, we're going to make an educated decision here of, are we going to move on with RestorFX? So then we came back, and we definitely like, okay, we could see how it could work. For me, it was, I like the fact with RestorFX that it was a trainable, scalable business. Whereas, like you guys know, with dents and with paint, you can't, by the time you train somebody, they're going on their own. So what was nice was this was, it was a system they had in place, so you could teach your employees on the system. They could do the job. And with me, it was like A to Z was dependent on me. I had to roll out my cord. I had to clean the spray guns. I had to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So this
From
was
start to finish. Totally understand. Yeah.
right. So this was nice where, okay, we can train. It's like having a sub shop or a pizza shop. You can train your, an employee. They have a system in place, and it was proprietary. So, if you have your own franchise location or territory, nobody can go out and purchase the product and do it on their own. So that there was a lot of appeal there. So we came back, and we also, we made the decision we're going to move forward. Dave and I keep saying we,
yeah,
but we're
I
separate.
was just going to clarify that. Yeah.
But we're Dave's my best friend. Like, we've been friends for 20 plus years. So we've always, we do a lot of things. We have our healthy competition on our day-to-day basis with each other. But
and you guys are both obviously mobile service. He's a PDR tech, and you're a paint tech, and both have separate RestorFX shops close together, right? Or 2 hours away or something, or hour?
They're about an hour away. So I have my city and my county, and then he's the next county over,
right?
Which is about an hour away.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's perfect. So
yeah. So
how was it? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, so we're getting back to when the world shut down.
Yeah.
We were scheduled to go for our training at Ryan's shop, and which was, I think, like you said, it was the March 12th, 13th, 16th, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the first day we started. All the restaurants had shut down, the gyms had shut down, and I truly believe if we would have waited another week, we wouldn't have did a RestorFX. I think we would have got busy with paint and dents. RestorFX would have been on the back burner, but this allowed us to do our week of training, and we came back, and we got family, friends cars, which they recommend to do.
Yeah, for sure. That's the truth though. Like, we did probably 20 cars, and we're like, oh, we're good. And then we started doing wholesale cars, and we realized we probably should have done the recommended 40 that they said, because we still made some more mistakes. But I think they say 30 or 40 cars, and then you're good to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we did it between Dave and I. We did 5.
Yeah.
We did 5 family and friends, and then after that, we were able to charge and make money.
Yeah, we did too, but we made some mistakes, but I guess that's just
too.
That's just gonna happen.
Yeah, we did too.
Yeah.
So that basically we had that rest of March, April, May. We were actually working out of Dave's garage. He built a nice size shop in the back of his house. So we ended up getting cars, and I drive them if they were from my dealerships, I'd drive them an hour to his house. We'd do them, leave them overnight, bring them back the next day. And so June 1st of 2020 is when I signed my lease, and I got keys to my shop. I set it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So how was that? Do you actually do any of your other services, the paint, repair, touch up out of the shop too?
I do
yourself?
Not.
Okay.
I learned very quickly that overspray is not a friend of RestorFX.
So true, dude. That shit'll fly for miles too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did one car, and we had a vehicle that we had just RestorFX'd, and I
stuck right to it, huh?
just stuck to it. I mean,
Yeah.
thankfully the car was dry, so we, ended up claying it and stuff, but it was just extra work that did not need to be done, but you learn from experience, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
So,
sure. Yeah.
so unfortunately I can't use the shop for that. It's just strictly RestorFX, unless it's a Saturday, or if I don't have anything in there and I know, okay, I'm going to go do some bumper blow-ins or something,
Mhm.
and I'll just sew in the shop and do it. But I've been so used to doing them outside that I'd rather, sometimes, a lot of times I'll just do them outside in front of my shop, but I'll do them outside.
Sure. So with paintless dent repair for us, like I loved RestorFX because it was, in my opinion, the equivalent of the paintless world on the paint side of things. Does that make sense? So I do paintless dent repair, which basically is the alternative to sending stuff to get repainted at a body shop. And in my opinion, the RestorFX is the paintless alternative to sending stuff to go to a body shop. Obviously, in both scenarios, in dent repair and RestorFX side, there's stuff that's so severe that it has to go to someone to get fully repainted. But your situation is unique because you actually do end up repainting and actually also just buffing scratches out, essentially like traditional paint correction. So how do you delineate the difference on that? Is it basically like anything that I can RestorFX, I try to RestorFX, and then after that you repaint, or how do you think about those two different services?
So I was my worst competition when I first started. And
I know
still
that's
go
what
through
that.
that at times.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my dealers were like, well, well, you were fixing all this stuff before. Why do we got to RestorFX it now? Because it's a higher price point and everything else. But it took probably a year by the time, and I still get the odd manager that says, well, you used to do it before, and so now I've kind of got a limit. So anything that's got more than 2 to 3 panels, I'll do it mobily. Anything more than that, it's got to go through RestorFX.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of cut and dried that with them. It's like, if they don't want to do RestorFX, I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll just leave it.
Yeah.
So some of them are like, okay, well, go ahead and take it and do it. And some of them be like, okay, well, we'll just leave it. And then the car will be there for 2-3 weeks. And it's like, well, salespeople are complaining about this car. I'm like, yeah, I told you we need to RestorFX it.
Yeah.
You get the sigh and it's like, okay, go ahead and just do it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm trying
that's interesting. Yeah.
I'm trying to, my goal was, so when I first started RestorFX, my goal was I wanted to transition within 2 years from being mobile to just having RestorFX out of the shop. But after, 28 years of doing my mobile business, it's hard to walk away. So what I've done, I started in 22, was I've narrowed down. Now I'm down to a handful of my good dealerships that I will do mobile.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to hit one dealership a day. And I usually go into the shop, help out. We deliver cars, pick up cars, get my employees set up, ready to go. And then from 11 till about 3, I try to do my mobile on my good accounts that I still have, get a good volume from.
Yeah.
And everybody else, if they need anything, they call and it goes through the shop.
Nice. So what is the price? That's interesting that you said you're almost your own worst enemy, your own main competition when you started, which is interesting. So like, what is it? What are the costs? Did you determine the 3-panel thing because of the cost? You're like, okay, it basically costs at 3 panels or 4th panel, it's basically cheaper for them to RestorFX it, or you just decided, hey, that's too much work at that point, that it's not worth it. What are you charging for that mobile versus what are you charging for in the shop? Let me ask it that way.
So before RestorFX, I would go around the vehicle, wet sand and polish some scratches, tidy everything up, and touch up the car for around $250.
Yeah.
And they were okay with it. So now that I brought RestorFX on, that price has gone up. So that way they'll be like, okay, there's not that big of a difference between that and RestorFX. Let's RestorFX it. Especially when I break it down to them and say, look, like we charge $500 wholesale to a dealership.
Yeah.
So for us, I try to tell them, like, I charge $125 to do a touch up on a car. So I'm like, realistically, you're getting RestorFX done for $375, and because we include the touch up with it.
Right. Yeah.
So once you kind of break it down a little bit to them,
Yeah.
and I've been slowly, especially with COVID and everything, the cost of everything going up, in the last year and a half or so, I've really bumped up my prices on my mobile stuff.
Mhm.
So that way, I'm trying to show them that there's not that big of a difference. So let's just RestorFX it. Now they know that it's a better repair. It's permanent. When you wet sand and polish a car that's just destroyed,
Yeah.
looks good for about a week or two, but once all the the silicones and everything wear away, a lot of that stuff comes back. As good of a job as you could use the best products, have the best tools. You're removing clear, right? Whereas with RestorFX, you're adding clear. So now they're realizing it's just a superior.
And you're not
service.
You weren't wet sanding the entire vehicle, were you? You're just
No.
Yeah, you're just doing spots.
We were just doing spots, but we were like you look at some of our RestorFX cars. Just about every panel on some of these cars are destroyed, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So typically, if you get a bad car that we're RestorFXing, it's very, at least a whole side for sure, but very commonly, most of the vehicles got some work that can be done. And when you're on the mobile service, essentially, you're kind of picking and choosing. For $250, you're like, okay, touch up the whole thing. I'm gonna get these 3 or 4 wet sand spots, right? And you're touching, a section of each panel, maybe. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's
I would give the whole vehicle just like a one step polish, just to kind of freshen everything up.
Yeah, sure.
And then we touch it up.
Yeah. Because I've been in a situation where I've actually been selling against someone in your situation. Colors on Parade is a big company, obviously, and there's other companies in my area that basically like, oh yeah, no, we have a guy that buffs our whole car. So just for my own selfish interest, how would you recommend that I sell against you or like you sold against yourself, basically, in that situation when someone's going to get a new RestorFX center, or you have one right now, and you're walking in and they're like, oh yeah, we got a guy already, Colors on Parade or whoever else that buffs our whole car for us for $200. Why would I pay you $500?
Well, you have to just educate the manager or the person in front of you that it's not the same service. Like you don't get the same results out of it. What RestorFX is permanent. My biggest thing since I started was I created the value in RestorFX. I constantly told them that, you get to keep your original paint, so it doesn't go against Carfax or CarProof. It's a 24-hour turnaround. You might have a vehicle that you have to paint 1 or 2 panels. Well, depending on the body shop that they take it to, that could be anywhere from $300 to $600-700 a panel. But the rest of the car still is rough. So how about you let us RestorFX it for $500? We touch up some of the deeper stuff. It's not the touch up isn't perfect. It's not gone, but the overall appearance of the car is nice. So when a customer comes and walks around the vehicle, it's like when you can clean up 85 to 90% of the damage on the car, and they come and look around the vehicle, they're not, even if they see the touch up, in their mind they're thinking, well, whoever owned the vehicle before cared enough about the vehicle to touch it up, make sure it's sealed up, and so on. And then you're still ahead of the game. 8 out of 10 times, probably 9 out of 10 times, they sell the vehicle after we do it, and there's not an issue. And they realize, well, our body shop costs have gone down since we're using RestorFX. Yes, as a vendor goes, we're probably on the higher end of their price point. But
we are, besides body shops, I would say. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But I just constantly tell them that, value, right? This is the value. Your ROI is quicker. We get the cars back. They're on the lot for a week or 2, and you sell them. So, and they're seeing it because, I'm 2.5 years in, and they're seeing that. I had one of my managers, we were on a lot one day, and I overheard him. I was just off to the side, and I overheard him tell the salesperson that this was going back when I was a few months into RestorFX, and he said to the salesperson, the salesperson said, I have somebody come in and take a look at that car from out of town. And he's like, well, let's fix this stuff. And he's like, well, why don't we just wait till see if he says anything? If he doesn't say nothing, then we'll just sell it the way it is. And he's like, well, what if he does say something? He's like, and I overheard him say this. He goes, every car he's done, we've sold. So why don't we just do it? That way the customer's got nothing to complain about. We can get our top asking price for it.
Yeah.
So that was just like that, everything kind of that aha moment where that's what they're thinking. That's where it's all coming from. So, and more of my dealers are getting that way of, we're not an expense. We're a tool in their arsenal. They're buying cars now based off of RestorFX, whether they see damage online or they take a vehicle and they're doing appraisal, and it's like they walk around the car and they'll write it as rough book, or they'll say, okay, we got to paint 2-3 of these panels, or we got to paint a bumper and a hood. And then they back it down on the cost, knowing that we're going to get RestorFX to do the whole car, $500, and it adds to their gross.
Yeah, for sure. You said you and your buddy Dave kind of started at the same time. Were you applying the product yourself in the beginning outside of your normal route? Or did you have a person?
We both had, because he had somebody in mind and I had somebody in mind.
Did they go to training with you?
They didn't. Dave and I went to training together. And when we came back, we ended up training our 2 employees together.
Gotcha. Okay. So that was pretty soon after then, right when you came back.
Exactly. Like we came back in March. By the end of March, early April, he already had his employee set up. I had mine kind of set up, and we taught them. To me, I feel like it's important that me as a business owner, I should know how to do the application. So that was important to me. So we've trained, and he still has the same employee, and I still have the same employee too.
Nice. What have you guys gotten the shops to now on a consistent basis? How many cars are you guys processing? I guess maybe weekly is a better way to look at it, or monthly.
My shop. So when we I like the progression that we had. We started off, my goal was when we first opened the shop in June of 2020 was, if I can do a car a day, I'll be happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Pays for the shop, pays for the employee.
Yep.
Good to go. Yeah.
And so I did that. We were able to do that. And by, I would say September, October, we started getting into 2 cars a day of 2020. So it's been a nice progression. Like we didn't go from 0 to, 6 cars, and then the quality wasn't there and everything. So I'm really happy with our progression. And, we had to deal with, 2020 was a different challenge with COVID. 21 was a different challenge, and 22 has been a different challenge. So
it's all business.
Now we're like, for 22, we averaged about 5 cars a day out of our shop. So we average about 5 cars a day. I have 2 employees. I have my nephew Will. He's been with me since the beginning, and I also have my daughter working with me, and she's been with us for, I believe, about 1.5 years now, coming up on close to 2 years. They both work really well together. I'm really thankful for the team that I have, because we have 2 employees, and they're easily putting out 5, some days 6 cars a day.
Yeah.
They have a system that they work together. They're pretty efficient. They've kind of Will's really good about efficiency and not wasted motions and movements and stuff. And so he's kind of showed Jillian, my daughter, his way, and she's obviously incorporated her way. And the quality is good. I'm hoping to bring on a 3rd employee this year. I'm looking into moving into a bigger shop. So if I can get into a bigger shop, then we'll be able to put more vehicles in the shop. So
you do more cars. Does your vehicle hold it? I mean, your shop holds 6 vehicles right now. Essentially, that's maxed out.
Yes, it'll hold 6 vehicles, and we can process 6 vehicles.
Yeah,
but it's tight. It's
yeah.
tight.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. Yeah, that's awesome. I know I met Will at Mobile Tech Expo, and he was telling me about his process, and I was like, we have a lot, we still have a lot to go. I think we're just about a year in right now, and processing car a day, sometimes 2. But that's all my shop space that I have. So I need to figure that out, which I knew would come with any sort of success with RestorFX, and now I'm there. And so now I have to figure out how to make it so I can process double or triple the amount. Just to do some math real quick for everybody, considering, my dad was in PDR since 91, hired a lot of paint and stain repair technicians, including myself, me being one of them. Now I own the company. If you can get a technician who does 2 to 3 RestorFX cars per day on a fairly consistent basis, that's somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500, give or take, here or there, $1,000 or $1,500 a day in gross revenue. And I would ask you to think about, if you hired a RestorFX, or excuse me, if you hired a paintless day repair technician, how much I would say a good skilled paintless day repair technician can do. And it's usually about that same number, to be honest with you. I know hail's different, obviously, but if you're running a route and doing some retail, and you have a PDR guy that's knocking out $1,500 a day, like he's pretty damn good, in my opinion. Right. He's fast and clean and good. And I know guys do more than that, but it's a small number of people that are doing more than that. So again, something that's scalable, something that you and I both started, that you can hire someone and train them within a reasonable amount of time, several months instead of several years, on either the service you offer in the painting or in paintless day repair, and get them up to speed in a shop that's now producing, 5 to 6 cars a day. Is, if you said $500 a car, is somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000 a day. It's pretty productive shop.
Yes. And I like we ended up with, for 22, we ended up with 884 cars that went through the shop.
Yeah.
And out of that, we had wholesale RestorFX, retail RestorFX. We do some panel work for RestorFX, and that's retail ClearFX, the ceramic coating. We also offer that. And we partnered up with a handful of dealerships for their Royal program that RestorFX offers.
Yeah.
And we've had some really good success with our dealers. I have a few of them that really do well. We're doing 2 to 3, sometimes 4 a week of Royals, and they're selling through their F&I program.
Yeah, so basically the Royal is essentially a ceramic coating package that's sold through finance department, for those that don't know. Yeah. So the one that's most popular that everyone knows is essentially not even close to the same thing, but Sealojet is essentially the most common one in my area, the biggest one by far, I think, that is basically sold through finance. So now RestorFX, and that's the beauty of RestorFX, honestly, in my opinion, is that you want to expand into another program. You want to expand offering ceramic coatings to a retail on a retail setting, or ceramic coatings inside of an F&I department. It's already all set up for you to do that, because you're obviously busy running another business. We never talked about it. It's called Custom Touch Up, but you're running Custom Touch Up, and so you don't have to recreate all the flyers and the information they can put in the finance department and all that stuff. It's already all there. You just order it, implement it, and it's there. So that's what you're saying you did, is adding the Royal stuff.
What's nice, it's just another revenue stream to what we're already doing, right? Mm-hmm. So why not offer it? Like RestorFX has done an excellent job with their whole packaging and marketing for the F&I department. We've followed it to a T, and it works. Mm-hmm. We're proof of it. We brought on a GM dealership October 15th. And as of last week, we've done over 40 cars for them in that time.
And on the Royal, the ceramic coating?
On the Royal.
Nice.
And they're happy with it because we pick up service, we drop it off.
Yeah.
Everything's consistent. When we bring it back, it's frontline ready, it's delivery ready. They don't have to worry about buying the product, and they don't have to spend $10,000-$20,000 on housing the product. Then they have to get training for their employees. Employees come and go. You need a clean site to work or shop to work in. So there's so many facts. They can't even get a cleanup delivery done properly. So they like the fact that we take care of it A to Z. They don't have to worry about it. All they do is sell it. Like it's for them, it's pure profit. They're doing nothing. They're pushing paper and they're making good profit off of it. So my goal for this year is to try to roll it out. We have a big dealer group here in my area that I'm trying to talk with their finance director and try to roll it out without the whole group. And some of the other dealers that we're not doing, I want to implement it with them also. So
how many dealerships do you think? Go ahead.
No, what I was trying to say with what I've done with RestorFX is I've created it so it's not, I don't want to give everybody the impression we're a detail shop. So what I've done is I've tried, like if you go to our Google page, everything's really consistent. Our Google page, our Instagram, Facebook, we're trying to create and give the impression to our clients and customers and potential customers that we're a paint restoration shop. This is what we specialize in. So that way they're not confused. We do offer paint correction and everything, but we want to be a one-stop shop for anything paint restoration related. And by doing that, we've gained a lot more customers on the retail side. Because, they go onto our Google page. We do everything from classic cars, some exotic cars, right down to minivans and you name it. But we don't do interior details. We don't do engine.
That's what I was going to say. You just want to stay away from vacuuming shit out, right? That's the shampoo and seats for sure. 100%. Yeah. So that's actually a fantastic tip. That's a fantastic tip to not call yourself a detail department, but call yourself a paint restoration, essentially. And there's stuff that you can't do though, right? Like obviously people want you to repaint stuff and you're like, oh, that's just not exactly what we do, but you're just staying in that lane though, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we stay in that lane, and we work with the other thing I've been doing too, with working with some body shops. So we've done work with them. So we refer anything we can't fix. We say, well, this is a body shop we work with, a couple of them, whatever you like to go see them. We've done it too, where they've went and gotten a complete bumper painted or a hood painted. They brought it back to us and we RestorFX the rest of the vehicle. We're kind of like that one stop of a complete vehicle reconditioning. Anything to do with the outside, we always tell them. Anything to do with paint related, we can handle. And it's just easier that way for them to kind of get their mind around it, instead of them calling or emailing and saying, well, do you do dog hair? And do you, no, we don't.
Yeah, no, none of that stuff. Yeah. No, it's a good tip though. And I know I asked this earlier, but I mentioned, since we're talking about kind of how you've classified your business and stuff, you from the outset essentially created two separate corporations. Is that right? From the very beginning?
Yes.
Okay. So you had the custom touch up and then RestorFX of Windsor or whatever the business name is called. So two completely separate corporations. And why did you do that?
I did that for a few reasons. I spoke with my accountant, and he said that if you ever decide to sell one of the businesses, and if you have both of them under one corporation, you're going to be obligated to sell the other business. You can't separate them. So we ended up doing it that way. I have two corporations. I already had my corporation for my touch-up business anyway. So we ended up doing a separate one for RestorFX. And it's cleaner that way too. You don't have, okay, well, did this go under this? Did this go under that? So what I've actually done too is it's so much more convenient because I don't have any employees or anything on the touch up side. It's just
Right.
me doing that. So all the payroll, everything else. My bookkeeper actually my accountant also has a bookkeeping service right under the same roof.
Yeah.
So it's everything's all under one roof and it's taken care of, and it just
That's
makes
awesome.
things so much easier. It's not what I do, and I don't want to deal with it. And it's nice having professionals to handle that.
Is your goal to sell it at some point? Is that the extra strategy, like you talked about in the beginning, like finding something you can grow and sell and like a separate corporation? It seems like it's poised for set up for it. Is there like a goal you have in mind, or maybe you're just
honestly, my goal for RestorFX was that, I mean, obviously if the right offer comes along and I would consider it, but I don't have a pension. I've been self-employed for 28 years.
Yeah.
So my goal was to get RestorFX up and running, and I'm slowly trying to get to a point where it's not so dependent on me.
Right.
And once it gets to that point, then my goal would be is just after expenses, if I can make X amount of dollars and I'm going to use that as my pension, it's going to be a steady flow of income coming in. I'm not one of these people that's going to sit and retire and do nothing. Yeah, I don't have any hobbies right now. The last couple of years, my hobbies has been RestorFX. So I don't golf. I'm not into that stuff. So maybe later on in life, I'll be able to maybe try doing golf and stuff, but I want to be able to go into the shop. If I want to take off and go have lunch with my wife or go hang out with a couple buddies or whatever, or if I want to take a week off and go somewhere with my wife, I want to be able to have that freedom to do that, but yet know that there's still income coming in.
Yeah. And I think everybody shares that sentiment, especially in PDR or an interior mobile guy or a mobile paint guy or whatever. And it's very difficult to scale that business doing that. But with RestorFX, it's not as difficult. That's for sure. Not that growing any business is easy, but it's a heck of a lot easier than training someone to paint bumpers. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Or fix dents to a high level.
Exactly. Like how much can you teach somebody in 2 weeks or a month? Like there's, you guys know what it's like. Everything's different. And it's just, sometimes it's just years of repetition and, okay, well, this is what I did with this. Let's try that. But that's what's nice about RestorFX. I would recommend it to anybody who's thinking about doing an add-on. Now, that being said, if you want to, my opinion, if you want to be successful at it, if you're a dent guy, a paint guy, a wheel repair guy, or an interior guy, don't think you're going to do RestorFX on your own. You can't. So if you're going to sign up with RestorFX and you're going to move forward, try to get yourself an employee dedicated to RestorFX.
I wouldn't even say try. I would say that's a requirement. Don't try and maybe I'll get one. And I actually took my employee to training with me. So the guy that was going to basically run RestorFX for me went to Bellingham. You did yours with Ryan K, but I did mine in Bellingham. I think everyone does Bellingham now, if I'm not mistaken. But I took my employee to Bellingham and got trained with him. So I can still definitely apply the product, but I'm now at this point, I'm not nearly as good as he is, in my opinion. But I can still do it if I needed to, maybe not on a higher end retail car, but I could do a dealership car if necessary. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Know who you're going to hire, and have that decided before you go and take them with you, or soon after you go, you come back and train them immediately before you forget.
Honestly, I would take them with you, or hold off on your training until you get the right person and go together. Because what was nice with Dave and I, like we were able to, if I forgot something when we were training our employees at the time, if I forgot something, he remembered. If it's same vice versa, right? So, but I feel like if you can get your ducks in a row before you go for training, That would be the ultimate.
Yeah.
You're just going to be more successful. I've talked to a handful of guys who do dents that when I got RestorFX and thinking, okay, I'm gonna do both. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get somebody eventually and train them, and it just doesn't work. I think what helped Dave and I be successful adding an add-on business to our existing business was we had dedicated people for it. Which really helped.
Yeah. I want to go back to some day-to-day questions just because I'm curious myself too. How many dealerships do you think you service? I don't need an exact number, but I'm just curious. Like, I guess the idea for me is how many dealers do you service? And then like out of those dealers, how many cars are you getting like per week from a dealer? Is there any dealer that's giving you like one car every day? Or is it mostly like a car or two a week for each dealer? Do you have an idea on that?
I have some dealers that it's hit or miss, right? Like some dealers you'll end up doing 4 or 5 in a week. Majority of the dealers, so I'm going to say probably around 12 to 15 dealers that I do work for. Some of them you do 1 to 2, 3 a week. Some of them you're doing 4 to 5 a week. But what I did do with one of my dealers, he's an independent car lot, but he sells late model, like later 2015 and newer.
Sure.
They house before COVID, they housed probably close to 150 to close to 200 cars. So now they're starting to build their inventory back up. So I sat and I've done touch-up work for this gentleman for 20 years. So what's helped? So I explained to him what we were doing, and what I said. Sorry, I just dropped something.
You're good.
So I explained to them what can we do because he was complaining about his body shop costs being high, and so I said, how about we do this? I said, if you can guarantee me 15 cars a month as a minimum, I will do them for $400 a car. So he agreed to that, and we're doing a lot more than 15. So he's a nice fill-in, and I'd like to hopefully get another 1 or 2 like that on board. It's nice to be able to know that you have a list of cars you can drop off and pick up. So it's nice to fill in the gaps. So I gave up a little bit with my pricing to make sure that
for sure
consistency. Exactly.
No doubt about it. I just had that conversation with the dealer the other day for the first time, and we probably have eight dealers that we pull from, and usually for us like 1 or 2 maybe a week from them, sometimes maybe 3. But I just talked to one of them the other day, basically saying like, hey, if we basically they have their own detail departments, and I'm like, this is the car that came out of your detail department, you can see what it is, so why don't we just make a deal where I just do every black car, just tell him to skip them because he's getting charged for them, but just tell him to skip them and just give them to me, and we'll just give you a bulk price for doing all those cars, and so those are definitely conversations to have. So how do you guys do pickup and drop off? Is it just the 2 people in the morning, or do you do that too?
I help out. So there's 3 of us. We do. I also have 3 runner cars, so that's nice because you're not dependent on having 2 people go to drop off a car. So I have 3 runner cars that are, we just buy some cheaper cars off the back lot, and we have those kind of floating around the city. It's funny because a lot of times we forget what's where, right? And it's like, well, where's the Corolla at? Where's the Ranger at?
Like,
what I mean? Because we forget about it. But I help out with the 2 of them. So we kind of try to get a system in place where, this one's along the way to here, and we have to pick up here. So that's a challenge in itself.
It's a logistics situation for sure.
It is, and sometimes I don't have the brain space in the morning for that, so I kind of leave that to to Will and my daughter Jillian. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what we got to drop off. This is what we got to pick up. You guys do the logistics and tell me where to go.
Tell me where to go. That's a good spot
Right.
as a business owner to be in, though. Like to go to your employees and be like, okay, what do I need to do for you, or how can I help you? So 3 renter cars. That's awesome. I'm actually buying a renter car, I think this week or next week. So to help with that too, because I have office managers I have people that handle my office stuff, as far as phone calls and all the back end and everything. So they've been helping, but I'm trying to make it so that they don't have to.
They do help. I mean, just it's nice. It's convenient, and it's money well spent.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for a few $1,000 for an old beater. How far away is your furthest dealership?
Probably about 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah. That seems to be pretty consistent when I ask people. That's kind of about how far they'll go. 30 minutes out.
My shop, I'm pretty fortunate. My shop's right in the middle of the city. So
yeah.
That being said, I'm 5-6 minutes off the expressway to 90% of my dealers.
Yeah.
So it's really convenient.
Yeah, for sure. You got to if you're going to pick a shop location, you want to be, I would say, within 10 minutes or so from where you plan to pull the most work from, for sure.
Well, I think it's important. Like, it's not just about your rent. Like, you got to think time is money, right? Like, there's huge. A lot of time being spent, depending on where you are. You could be stuck in traffic, just trying to deliver or pick up a car. And so I think, and you got to kind of be strategic in where you're looking at a shop. That can we get easy on, easy off? How's the traffic flow? Where am I? Even if it's a few $100s more a month, you're going to make more than that just in the time you're going to save, especially day to day.
Yep, no doubt about it. That's awesome, dude. I feel like I learned a lot, and I know if I'm learning something, then the people listening are learning a heck of a lot, because I feel like I know a decent amount about RestorFX. So, a question that I wanted to start asking people, and I did something similar with the paintless stain repair, is, where do you see the future of kind of the RestorFX brand, or just RestorFX, I guess, service itself? Like, how far do you think it can go?
I think we haven't even scratched the surface. I feel like if we can get it to become a well-known name out there, like, you have your glass repair, your
Safe Light.
Safe Light. That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah, I figured.
So like when you think of glass repair, you think of Safe Light. You think of you had Midas Muffler, and you have all these places that you just think of as a service, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we can get it, like, the more people that see RestorFX, what you could do to their vehicle before and then the after, and the timeline, and and the price point, it's just, we just got to get in front of them. We got to get them to teach them how to, how. I think the marketing side, I know their RestorFX is working on that this year.
They hired a new CEO and stuff. And
so I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping that he's from Linex, so he created Linex, from what I understand, into a brand name. So I'm hoping we have the same with RestorFX.
Yeah.
I always tell people we're not a body shop, and we're not a detail shop. We're that in between service.
Mm-hmm.
That can provide reconditioning to your car in such a short amount of time, and it's the results speak for themselves.
Yes, 100%. I don't think anyone's denying that, for sure. Everybody I've ever talked to, they're like, "Yeah, I saw the demo," and it's like, I've never seen anything like that before. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why everybody signs up for it. Or that's why when you go to a dealership to sell them, I don't even spend as much time selling them as I do just doing a demo for them.
That's the best advertising, right?
Yeah.
Hey, let's go pick out your worst car.
Yeah.
And let me have everybody look at it. Have all the salespeople look at it.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it back tomorrow and tell me what you think.
Then we'll all look at it again.
Yeah, exactly.
See what's up. Well, cool, man. I appreciate that. Tons of info. Thanks for hanging out a little bit later than we thought. And it's been good getting to know you at MTE and a little bit more today. So congrats on that. Hopefully you can get a bigger shop and hire another technician.
Yes. Thank you, Corey. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. It's fun times. All right, guys. See you on the next one.
Thank you.